I'm Laura Baker, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about the history of elections hacking. A little bit about me. I grew up in Wyoming, left for some 20-some years to work in the big cities, and came back to raise my kids here. I grew up skiing at Snowy Range Ski Area, graduated from UW with my Bachelor's of Science degree in marketing, and then went on to get my MBA in Texas Tech University. Although I didn't have a technical background, I ended up in the programming field and eventually moved into cybersecurity. I now run the Cyber Wyoming suite of nonprofits and love helping others address their cyber risks. Cybersecurity affects a lot of social issues, and today I'm going to tell you about elections hacking and why there's such a buzz about it. A lot of people have heard about the 2016 elections hack, but most people don't understand the actual details and how it involved. So I bet you'll be surprised that it started with sports. Yep, that's right. It started with sports. The Russians were upset about the 2014 Sochi Olympics. They were embarrassed because their athletes got caught using performance-enhancing drugs by the World Doping Agency. They were further embarrassed because of their failure to cover up the manipulation of these test results, and they eventually got banned from the Olympics for 4 years because of the scandal. And Russia retaliated with a cyber warfare campaign. So, according to the Department of Justice, the Russian government conducted persistent and sophisticated computer intrusions affecting US persons, corporate entities, and international organizations and their employees around the world. And what was their goal? To embarrass us back. They wanted to publicize stolen information from these people and companies. And here's where my marketing background comes in. They started a marketing campaign to try to influence us, US citizens, and provide disinformation. Why? Their goal was to undermine, retaliate against, and otherwise delegitimize the efforts of international anti-doping organizations and officials. It wasn't just the US they were after here, but we did get a large share of their abuse. So how did this morph into the elections hack? Well, first, their techniques really worked. They were very successful at their disinformation marketing campaign, and it didn't help that targeted people were afraid that their private information would be released. The Russians stole medical records, user IDs and passwords, and athletes' data regarding therapeutic use exemptions or legitimate reasons for using a prescription drug, and then modified it and released it, and they sent it to over 186 reporters to amplify the exposure. And the Russians are still ticked off about this, because last year I was in a threat intelligence class, and we set up a honeypot website that posted stories about Russian doping. We collected internet addresses of those trying to hack in and hurt that website, and we followed those addresses back over the internet, and it led us to St. Petersburg. The picture of the building is small, but there's high security there. Surveillance cameras, keypads on the doors, and vents in the sidewalk indicating a data center below ground. The Russians are very good at cyber warfare and marketing campaigns. So back to how this morphed from sports to the US presidential elections. First, I said it worked with the doping scandal, right? Well, the US was actively standing by the Olympics Committee and the World Anti-Doping Agency. And the US has always had a tense relationship with the Russians, and it doesn't help that Putin was a KGB agent in the Cold War. 3 of the same Russians that ran the disinformation campaign on the doping scandal from the group Fancy Bear were also charged with conspiring to gain unauthorized access into the computers of US persons and entities involved in the 2016 US presidential election, steal documents from those computers, and stage releases of the stolen documents to interfere with the 2016 US presidential election. Interfere with. So it was a really easy jump to go from a strategy of defending the Russian athletics program to an offensive strategy of influencing the US democratic process. 12 Russians, of which 3, remember, were involved in the doping retaliation scandal. They were indicted by the US Department of Justice on July 13th, 2018. And our cyber agents were able to trace it back to the Russian Federation Intelligence Agency. The Russians were attempting to hack the Democratic National Committee to release information that would interfere with our free and fair elections. So how did they do it? They made up fictional people on social media that their victims may like or relate to. They set up proxy servers. These let you go online under a different IP address to disguise your identity. They did their homework and really researched the people and companies or organizations that they wanted to hurt. Then they sent emails that were really well written, personalized, and hard to tell that they were fake, which often contained malware to steal user IDs and passwords. And when this didn't work, they found out where the person was staying when they traveled for work, and they monitored the free public hotel Wi-Fi to capture that person's user ID and password. Here's a tip: never use public Wi-Fi. Then they stole emails, documents, and more user credentials, and they released it all on Twitter and Facebook accounts with their fictional personas of American hacktivists. In fact, in June of this year, Twitter announced that they closed down over 32,000 accounts that were fake from China, Russia, and Turkey. In 2017, over 3,000 Facebook ads were purchased by Russian operatives. And in fact, in the 2018 primary election, it was a little closer to home. My husband received a Facebook ad with a beautiful US flag flying in the breeze, and the words over it said, "Liberals want you to ban the flag because it offends Muslims." Ridiculous. Neither liberals or Muslims want to ban the flag. So Russia was influencing our social media then, and they still are today. But that isn't all that they did to hack our elections. They used computers from around the world, some in the US, and they paid for the use of those computers in Bitcoin. Then they tried to hack our state institutions, our state offices, and software companies that provide election software. In fact, some are wondering if the Tyler Technologies' recent ransomware hack was because foreign actors were trying to disrupt our county offices to ultimately affect the 2020 elections. Note that Tyler Technologies says that their software that displays election results was safe because it was hosted by Amazon, and luckily wasn't affected. But, and also the ransomware attack was limited to Tyler Technologies Corporation, not the individual counties. But regardless, the hack is mostly social engineering, trying to get people to click on the right email that affected the 2016 election. The Russians are great psychologists, and they're excellent at manipulating us. But I feel that we as citizens need to really take personal responsibility when it comes to the internet and protecting our personal and work information. We are the front line against Russian manipulation. 2016 changed the face of elections forever. The Department of Homeland Security declared elections as critical infrastructure, which means that any system or place or process that had to do with elections was under scrutiny and eligible for grants to make our voting processes safer and not tampered with. In Wyoming, the Secretary of State's office has confirmed that all physical and cyber protocols have been looked at, assessed, and updated since the 2016 election. But Wyoming really wasn't in bad shape in the first place. Our law requires paper forms for voter registration and for voting. So we have always had a paper trail, which is great. Our election systems are not connected to the internet at all. Our election results are tabulated in the old-fashioned way and entered manually with a rigorous reconciliation process. So for instance, the ballot is put into the box, and as it's doing that, it's electronically counted. And then it's manually counted, and then when it matches, it's entered into the tabulation system. Our county agencies take their responsibilities very seriously. But that's just 2016. I bet you didn't know that it wasn't the first time our US presidential campaigns were hacked. Yep, the McCain and Obama campaigns were hacked in 2008. A book called The Dawn of the Code War by John Carlin gives a really detailed account of this hack. This was the first time the FBI had seen a hack in the middle of a presidential campaign, and it occurred in the summer and the fall of 2008. Both campaigns had been penetrated by the Chinese. The FBI theorized that the Chinese wanted to see what both Obama and McCain thought about foreign policy affairs that would affect China. But it was still a shocker to see that, as this was the first time that it occurred. The FBI handled the situation very carefully and with a strong sense of fairness. FBI Director Robert Mueller made sure that both campaigns were given the exact same warning and set of instructions so the FBI would remain bipartisan. How did the two campaigns react? Well, I wish I could say that both took it really seriously, but they didn't. Obama had a more tech-savvy team and did everything the FBI told them to do and secured their network and systems. McCain's team was more old school. They didn't take as much of the FBI's advice. They weren't quite as tech-savvy, and they decided to file a complaint with the Chinese government instead of taking all the necessary actions. So that's the real deal about the elections hacking efforts by foreign actors. With the efforts over the last 2 to 3 years, I'm hopeful that we will be more alert and more prepared. But as Kai Shan, the Election Division Director of the Wyoming Secretary of State's office said, these half-truths spread like wildfire and taint our perception of the elections process. Russia, China, and Iran, those are real threats. But I've heard it said before, and I'll say it again, that they aren't doing anything to us that we aren't already doing to ourselves. They are, however, pouring gas on the fire, but I would argue that we are the ones that started the fire all by ourselves. Kai went on to suggest that making sure that our elections process stays secure starts with conversations at home, at the kitchen table in the living room. When you hear or read something and you feel like, that might not be right, or that might not be true, or that's kind of odd, then it is the perfect time to reach out to your county election official, your county clerk. They really are the trusted election experts in your community. Here are some discussion questions for your class, and maybe some fun facts to help you with that discussion. Today, at least 41 countries have cyber warfare doctrines and 17 countries have offensive capabilities in cyberspace. There are 8 different cyber strategies in the US originating from multiple government agencies: the White House, the US Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, the Department of Commerce, US Cyber Command, the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, and the Cyberspace Solarium Commission. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed the elections hack information that I provided today.